Why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is.
Is there more soldiers on the other side of that EMA? Did they go pick up new soldiers? Because, you know, now that it's weak, to kind of give y'all a little background, right? I love trading. I've done trading for a long period of time, and oh, come on, 4:30. Come on. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, my neighbors? Got quite a bit, wrong screen. Got quite a bit I want to cover. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and the bell button. Share it to your friends and family. I'm going to stay on, I don't know, maybe we'll push into 11, 12 o'clock. I want to kind of go over quite a bit of stuff that's available, especially with the fact that the market is kind of doing a little bit of a tumble. Actually, let's do that real quick. I usually do this rundown during my season when I'm doing before you take the trade. But since this is after the trade, I want to just recap what happened in my trade. But before that, let me just do some let's do some practice of what I normally do. All right, let's go ahead and get rid of all these lines so it doesn't confuse you. Oh, get out of the way. Don't want to excuse you. Oh, I'm about to scare y'all. All right, so what are we having here, right? We got a little bit of a exhaustion that's happening here, and it looks like the market is trying to pull down a little bit. Lots of selling on this top wick. Could we get to a base kind of like this trend and then bounce back up? That's very possible, but we are rejecting some key points. Let's keep this going. We got over here supposed to be oil. If you haven't traded oil, I think you should at least get an idea. We got all these drawings. Get out of here. Bye. So now we got oil that's trying to hold this base. Now, I don't know if y'all remember back in 2020, we had negative barrels on oil. That was back here, right? And there was just no capacity. Well, long story short, there was no capacity to put in new oil refinement. So they were paying people to take oil. That's how bad it got during the pandemic, and the futures market reflected as such. And you can kind of see we're giving ourselves a little bit of a bounce. I don't think we're going to get super low on here. I did question, can we get to 50 bucks? But we haven't got there, so we'll see what happens there. Lots of investments coming into the market too. All right, and then over here we got ourselves gold. Let's go ahead and take a peek at gold. Gold looks like we got more room to the upside. It's starting to put a little bit of a bull pennant or bull flag, whatever you want to look at. This will be your pull, and we probably could get to 5,000. And then silver, this thing has been a behemoth, but it's putting in what looks like an evening star. Not a good sign. We peaked out at like $93. I heard some speculation that people think it's going to get to like 200 or 150. But again, let the charts tell you that. Don't let somebody else tell you that. Not even me. All right, but don't forget to hit the like, subscribe button. All right, British pound looks like this. Actually, let me go ahead and get the cheat code off for like a few seconds. This thing is very tricky because, again, the market's going to follow this, because if the dollar strengthens, British pound falls, dollar strengthens, market pushes up. So the British pound looks like it's struggling to make higher highs, which makes sense to a certain degree. We did finish the W pattern. It kind of pulled up, but we cannot take any more highs, so just be careful there. We got Bitcoin. Now, I know y'all want to know a lot about Bitcoin. Let me get rid of all of this. Can we break below this level? Now, this EMA is just one of my favorite EMAs. This is my 800. Sometimes it's far away and it's worthless, but you can see we kind of had a nice little bounce off of here, and they're just building a base here. I don't know what they're going to plan here, but I don't think we're going to get that 100,000. If we do, it's either we blast right through that 100,000, or when we touch this thing is going to go ahead and take out that 800 EMA. We might get 75,000, which is what Warren Buffett had projected for Bitcoin. So let's see if this is a bull trap in itself. Here's the Russell. Russell usually piles in when the market drops, and the Russell has been on a tear. That means we're getting deeper into our domestic investing. look at your small caps and small companies, companies that don't have no international exposure, especially with the economic war that we are pretty much fighting right now. So this is going to be very interesting on how the Russell responds. Ever since it broke that 2,500, it's been struggling to make lower lows. I'm looking for this thing to retest 2,500 again after making these highs. But if it does it, maybe 2,600. And then the last is the US dollar. This thing is pushing up, which is forcing the market to come down. And then we got the Russell doing what it has to do. All right. So after going through all that and just kind of giving y'all a little premise of what the market can and cannot do, I want to kind of go through some of the stuff that we talked about throughout this week. So if you haven't been on here and you haven't seen this show before, I kind of talk about Apple looking for this thing to go to like 250, and you could kind of see we're looking like we're putting an H pattern here. Not a good sign for Apple. We break this pivot, a lot of these buyers that's here are going to run for the hill. But if we actually hold that pivot, you may get yourself what looks like a W. So that means this pivot is going to be our target. And I'm going to be very curious. If we get above 260, I'm bullish. If we get below 255, I'm dumping this thing all the way down to like 250, 249. What else I got up here? Capital One Finance. Now this one was a little tricky one because it had earnings that was coming up, but it kind of gapped down already, got past my levels. We left it as is. It might be just bull trapping folks here, so be careful as we get closer to 242. If it rejects there, we're probably going to go a lot lower to that downside. All right, what else I got for y'all? Bank of America, we kind of looked at. Bank of America is at TP1. We was looking for this downside. I did not step into this one, but $50 puts are looking really, really good from the time at 12, which was right here, for this thing to continue to the downside. Look out for this level here. This might be a little tricky. Even though we get close to that $50, it might bounce off of $50.71 or 70 cents. All right, we got CoreWeave. CoreWeave? Is it CoreWeave? I don't know. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. Who knows? All right. But it is CRWV. It's too far from my entry. I did not step into it. I want to see it close to my entry here. But if you are inside of here, look for 102 before they start selling off. I won't be surprised that we get to 120, but we do have a block that we have to deal with, kind of like this block here. But I'm really calling this block here and here. That's going to be tough. So 100 to 110 is probably going to be very, very choppy. So you want to get in. Think of it like you're trying to do a dunk, right? You're not going to just jump off of 2 feet, right? You're going to go ahead and just bend your knees as much as you can, and then you're going to spring right off. That's what I want. I want the market to bend its knees down over here to $90. When it gets to $90, holds the support, because if you bend your knees and there's no support, when you try to push off, you're just going to fall, right? That means if you try to jump off of a plank versus a solid footed ground, that's how I'm looking at it. So let's just see if they can test it, make sure that that $90 is going to hold. If it holds, then we can play it to that upside. Google, this one's a little risky. I still think there's more upside on this, but they did hit the 4 trillion mark when this happened, and I think a lot of people are starting to take their profits off of this ticker. Let me widen the screen, and that could really cause some issues for Google to continue to the upside. But I do have a target of 350. So now we got CMG. Oh, actually, you know what? We did Oracle. I don't know if anybody jumped into it, but this thing looked like it was trying to play to the downside. It rejected that point. I know some traders like to, you know, if it hits a stop loss, you get played down. Ever since this earnings cycle that happened here, it's just been struggling to really hold its level. I thought it was going to get a gap fill, hence the reason why we was aiming for this. But no entry usually means you do not take the trade, and they might go lower. And this is a perfect example of there's a difference between a close above and a difference between touching an entry. And that's a perfect example of that. If you just got in because it touched 205, you're upset because it got down to 182. That's about a $20 drop. Very uncomfortable. So that trade is out the window. Let's go to CMG. I am going to be looking for a potential position. I'm looking at it from a weekly standpoint. Here's what it looks like, kind of pinned to the top. I'm anticipating solid earnings that's going to be in there. And their earnings is all the way on February 3rd, so I got some time for it to build some cushion and some equity. But if this thing is like negative or like 5%, I might take my 5%, get out the way before earnings, just to avoid the earnings flush if that actually happens. Let's go to a 1 month real quick and kind of point out, this is why I'm looking at it like this. We haven't been back to these levels since 2022. All right, so we're talking about 2022 discount that you're getting. So everybody that was here and everybody that piled in, be like, oh, they finally split, now I can afford it, they got themselves liquidated. And if you've been in my class, I explain what splits are and how it works. If you haven't followed me, go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, and the bell button. JD underscore the great on Instagram. I usually drop some gems on there too. But yeah, you could see that after the split, it kind of pulled back something relatively vicious. Oh, we got something going on over at NQ. Let's see if we can find an NQ play over here. I got a market dominance that's triggering on the 45 minute. It is basically saying that we are dropping a nice little entry at 685. If you want to try to chase it now, that could work out too, because that is a very strong engulfing candle. We swept all of this liquidity here, all of them. They're crying bloody murder. And if we squeeze it like this is an M pattern breakout like that. So we could probably just take off to the downside from here. Let's see, 2 hour is pointing down, 4 hour is pointing down daily. Oh, it's been pointing down. So yeah, so this 45 minute could be an entry for downside momentum with the M pattern actually panning out. So for those that are playing QQQ, right, this is what it probably would look like for you. There's your M pattern right here. Here's your extension, and this thing could go ahead and fall and continue. Maybe fill this gap to like 618, 619, maybe, give or take. So we'll see what happens when it's all said and done. Let me go adjust myself, because I got a nice little position on one of my trades. I think I'm gonna go ahead and see how this works out throughout today. Let me take one more peek at NQ. I think I would have loved it closer to here. At least retrace back to the neckline of the M pattern. But it closed inside the fair value gap. I'm going to go ahead, shoot your shot. All right, so I got a nice little position that I was already holding on to. We'll see what happens there. I might get this wrong. You never know. I'm not a fiduciary. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a person that just loves tickers. All right, let's go to EOSC. All right, EOSC. Let's come over to the daily. It hit the TP1, which is great, right? This thing happened really fast because I was looking for the 12th, right? We closed above here, but it was just way too close. This probably would have been the best entry, but I was not watching it like that. But this thing already hit TP1. TP2 would bring us to like $20. If you don't know who they are, they're in the energy space. A lot of potential here. I don't know if y'all ever followed SoFi. It has negative EPS for a little bit, and then when they start turning a profit, everybody starts to pile in. It's at the edge. It's at the precipice. So we'll see what happens there. HL, this is Hecla, I think it was, right? Hecla Mining. So this is in the gold space. They mine all types of different materials. You can see, look at how they're taking out TP every time. And actually, you know what? Let me do this for y'all too. If you haven't followed me, I'm telling you, perfect time to follow me, because I usually talk about everything. $25 psychological level. All right. What is what is psychological level, right? Psychological level is basically this, to kind of put some context in itself. If you were trading and you was trading from $20 and you're getting close to 25, you'll look at it from a psychological standpoint, like $25. All right, as soon as it gets there, I want to see what happens. And this consolidation will scare you. Most traders trade like this from a psychological standpoint. Hedge funds, they have targets, and their targets are based on those parameters. If we look left, they haven't been at this level at all. This is the first time. Let's see. Let's go all the way back. Come on. Is there anything in the 2000s? Nope. Looks like nope. Nope. Not even a 90. Oh, there we go. There it is. I knew it was somewhere. Look at that. $25 psychological level. Look what they did when they first moved up to this level. After 1987. They have not been here since 1987. Can you imagine? I had these shares since 1987, weathered the storm, still stayed in, and I got to 25 for the second time, and I've been waiting over 40 years for me to get my money back. Listen, I'm taking something off the table, especially if I average down. So understand that these psychological levels has strong responses, and you could do some research. Maybe it's every $5, maybe it's every $2, every $1, whatever the case may be. From a psychological standpoint, the market moves like that, and this ticker respects $25. All right, let's keep this going. I got Riot. This bad boy right here is starting to break out. I was looking at that TP1. It did get away from my entry. I did say if y'all wanted to kind of be a little bit more riskier, play it until it gets to like $19 and some change. You're aiming for $20. If it flies through, great. If it doesn't, take it close to that 1953. And that's what I'm looking at there. And then we got Baba, which is another one I'm kind of considering getting in, as much as I don't like China. I just need this candle to hold above this level today. Maybe. And if it holds, then I might get a position in there, assuming that whatever candle comes in does not come back over here, and that'll keep me with a better and tighter stop loss. And my ultimate stop loss would be down here, depending on what my leverage is. All right, let's see what else I got for y'all. Citibank. This one's going to be really, really good. I do think it's overheated. I think it needs to cool down. If I go over to the monthly, you'll understand what I mean. This thing's been ripping and roaring. If you've been following before you take the trade, I warned y'all around $83 that this could happen. Unfortunately, I got stopped out somewhere around here. Would have loved to be at 124, but I thought the psychological level of 100 was more than enough, and I was happy with my profits, but this thing's ripping. So since that's the case, then we're going to go ahead and look at it at a higher standpoint, and this is where it was back in the housing bubble. So it's recovering a lot of points from there. If we look at it from a yearly standpoint, the yearly had closed inside of a yearly fair value gap. Now, is Citigroup the same company that they were when they dropped off in the pandemic? No, sorry, not pandemic, housing bubble? No, they're not the same company. Could they continue to the upside? Well, the chart says yes, but they don't have some of the assets that they had. They used to do insurance. They used to do a hedge fund, managing wealth, all types of stuff. They're only in a fraction of the spaces that they were during that time. Hence the reason of this monstrous move where it was a $500 stock. Now, if you want to kind of look at a safer bank, I would say maybe Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, JPM. Those are the ones that weathered the housing bubble and still continue to the upside. Meanwhile, Citigroup had to divest. They had to do a lot of cleanup because of things like, what was that doggone group? Oh my God, what was that group? They basically had all those mortgage-backed securities. Do some research. I'm sorry, I can't think of the name of the group, but they're the ones that caused the housing bubble in itself because they were over leveraged on, housing is just never going to fail, and they were taking like 3-5% guaranteed every time. And when that happened, because of subprime loans, some of them was sold by companies like Citigroup and their affiliates. Caused the housing bubble, but they did not get a bailout, and they did not sell their company into another group, unlike Washington Mutual, or some of the older names, Bank Atlantic, some of the little tiny ones. All of them had to kind of like merge together for too big to fail. So Citigroup, at where they are, good opportunity for more upside, but this is going to be very speculative because they're nowhere near who they were. All right, let's go ahead and keep this going. FCX. This is in the metal space as well. This is following gold, and you can kind of see as gold is kind of like pulling back, it's kind of holding its position. I think a nice little retracement back to the entry will get us to the TP1, but just wait for it down here. We're closer to the top than we are to the bottom, so don't go ahead and just start throwing your money at things. All right, Walmart. Walmart is a weird one. So some people are considering it tech. If y'all haven't known, Walmart is currently in the NASDAQ. It used to be in NYSE, if I'm not mistaken. They're considered them a tech space. Now, why they consider them a tech space is because Walmart has those sales channels, very similar to Amazon. If you post something that you're selling on something on a platform or whatever, Walmart is interwoven with all sales channels. That's why when you go get your groceries out of nowhere, they suggest a bunk bed out of Hong Kong. is because they're inside of a sales channel. Something like Big Commerce, for example, funnels to multiple sales channels, so that way you can get feeder patterns from people that are looking for like items. All right, so that's why they kind of putting them in that space. Especially they got very intuitive, because right now what they did, they went ahead and got into the, what was that thing? Oh, the automated ATM, not automated, automated registers. They're getting rid of that. Their guidance was actually solid right here. They're anticipating 3%. They just came off of the split not too long ago, which is back here. So I think a lot of investors are coming back into Walmart just for growth potential, which, again, that sounds kind of crazy, right? Walmart growth potential when there's mostly a consumer staple, but they're not being looked at as a consumer staple in its entirety. More like, actually, they call it retail trade. Yeah. When a recession hits, they're protected. Everybody's going to run to a Walmart, Family Dollar, and Dollar Tree. When it comes down to their sales channel, they're funneling more revenues through those sales channels. So it's going to be very interesting on what it does in the next 5 years. So just keep that in mind. I'm looking for $125 calls, and we're almost there. We need to see if they can hold that. If it retraces back into here, holds the support, I think we can grab all this sell side liquidity that brings us down here, and then their earnings is probably going to go ahead and be the one that springs us up. So this one's going to be very interesting if we get to that 114 again. And that is all that I have for y'all. All right, so let's go ahead and kind of take like a 5-minute break. I'm going to run through some screeners, and at the same time, I'm going to just make sure I have some stuff lined up for y'all for some day trades, and we'll see where we can go from there. All right, so give me a few. All right, so let me go ahead and break this down. It looks like red is trying to hold a base here. I'm thinking something like this would be good for a day trade. If we can get a solid close in the next 8 minutes for 230, yeah, I think 230, we could probably get to 247 if this base really holds. So we got a couple of things that's happening. The Stochastic is actually pointing up like this, and then we got the 2 hour that's trying to close up, and it's showing that we're on top of a block here. So very, very interesting little setup here. I don't think they have enough strength because I think that's what they want. They want to get under 207, maybe 200, and get it to 198. So we might get a nice little pullback. It might stop here at 236. I think that's probably because it's counter trend trading, and then push back up. So I'm gonna get back to it. I'm gonna look at some others, but look for Reddit to hold above 230 in the next 8 minutes. Yeah, I'm looking at my NQ trade. This thing is like really pushing up a little bit more, um, which is being a little annoying. I was looking for this to kind of continue down, but I guess they came for this fair value gap here and they're done with it. So not a fan of that move. Psychological 25,600, but I was looking for it to get to like 532 and see if that can actually hold. But the market does what it wants to do. So we got 15 minutes on here before that actually pans out and finishes this candle. Let's go over to the 2 hour. Yeah, the 2 hour looks like it's still got more room to the downside. But this block is the one that's driving. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Still kind of going through the rest of the screener. I still kind of like the Reddit one as it's holding. But I was waiting for the candle to kind of like close, and I was going to do it now. Might be looking at Reddit calls. That still kind of looks good. So we'll come back to it again. Well, let me be extremely specific. Is that a question for me? Yeah, that's the equity if I'm not mistaken. Hold on, let me try to truncate this. Yeah, so that's verified. Yeah, correct. To be specific, like this is proper accounting jargon in a way, right? Right now, because of all the expenditures and loans that's out and money owed to CCBBP, 228 is the equity. But if you liquidated everything, technically your true balance is $47,000. So that offsets to your fixed assets. So that's what that next line, if you go up to line number 99, that number matches because assets equals liabilities plus minus equity. So that's where that kind of comes in play. That would have never worked out because then you wouldn't have categories and everything else. So it's almost impossible to keep. Go ahead. Sorry, trying to knock out like 10 things. I had to jump on a phone call real quick. Just stepped into the Reddit right now. And yeah, this is going to be interesting. I want to see if, because we got a nice solid hold right here. And it's looking really, really pretty. I'm going to look for another 45-minute candle to kind of step into here, which kind of erases that, and see if I can get the TP1 at the very least. So let's give it a little bit. All right, so I'm looking at something that looks very interesting. This is going to be high risk, I would say. Um, Bank DraftKings. I know this is a swing trade. I apologize, but this is getting my attention. 32.95. If we close the day under that level, I'm looking for $30 puts, maybe even $25 puts on DraftKings. Yeah, $25 puts on DraftKings if we close under 32.95. That's in my list of things I've been eyeballing, and this thing is staring at me. Yeah, this looks very interesting. Let me see this 45 minutes again. Might be a little tired right now, but we're close to entry. So I would say if you find the fact that you want a tight stop, we might be able to do it into a day trade as long as it holds under that 32.95. But I'll be back. Knocking out 10 things at the same time. Yeah, it looks like NQ is trying to really push back up. It's kind of messing with one of my trades, but we're gonna leave it in itself. Oh, hold on for a second. So I think we're gonna deal with gold. This is Barrick Mining. Yeah, I think we kind of covered quite a bit of them. I don't think I have any other setups of day trade. Walmart kind of pulling back. As well as Fargo. Uber's building a base. Oh, PayPal's falling like a lead weight. Hold on, let's see what's going on with PayPal. Oof. That looked like an M. Oh. PayPal might come down to $50. Oh yeah, if they don't catch PayPal here at 56, we're talking about $50 PayPal. Let me see. No, the monthly doesn't have no oscillators. Oh geez, this is crazy. Yeah, so yeah, just look out for PayPal and see what this does. Now it's gonna get choppy here, but I probably would buy some time. And I don't think it can wedge. Yeah, actually put this in your watch list. Let's not run into it. I would love a pullback and then come in. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I want to. I am like halfway sure I want to take this PayPal. I'm being very greedy. We're coming off of a pin bar. Yes, 57 would have been a better price, but this is just showing nothing but pure weakness right now, and I think we're gonna get another extension very soon. Let's look at the dollar real quick. Let me see. Oh yeah, that dollar is trying to power up. Let's look at the daily. I don't know if y'all remember when I came to the dollar, it was like red right here, and it's just pushing up. Something like PayPal will be affected by the impact of the dollar because they have a lot of international exposure as well. Oh man, it looks so tempting, but it is out of position. It's not the best entry to get in. All right, I'm just gonna sit back and watch. Let me not jump to conclusions. So, to kind of nip it in a bud and make it all make sense. Let me get my data to refresh. Okay, I guess it's already refreshed enough. Reddit. Let's talk about that. 45-minute This thing looks like it wants to kind of fill right back up, and I'm very looking forward to this thing getting back to 236. If this thing can get to like 240, it would be great. I think 238 is going to be its ultimate target. But the funny thing about it, yes, it's kind of counterintuitive, very high risk when it's all said and done. I did some very extravagant option calls on this. So find what fits your budget and your risk tolerance when it's all said and done. To give you an idea of which one I chose today's. All right. I'm not gonna tell you the strike price on that one because that thing is like hella risky. And then as far as DraftKings, this one is preemptive, right? DKNG. This one is very preemptive. I'm kind of presuming that 32.95 will hold regardless for the rest of the day. I went super light on the position just in case I am wrong. That way I lose very minimal. I see a gap on DraftKings, and I think that's what they want at 32.19. And then the momentum should take us down into here with another gap, and then at least attempt half of this fair value gap. With some $25 puts, I think this can really print if you get the right time frame of contract. So just be conscious on that. And I think I gave y'all a lot. I really did. I was aiming to be on here pushing past 11. I think I did that. If y'all want to see more of this, by all means, just put in a comment for me to do more live trades and more live setups and conversations like this. I know for those that's a Trade Hero, y'all like to kind of see the alert system and everything else. Like I said, the developers are working on what they're working on, and it's chaos. Try to get that back to where it was. So just be patient with us, and the stopgap is these videos. By all means, just comment in. Let me know if y'all want more live streaming of this. I could do more of those. Some of them are going to be long, some of them are going to be relatively short. Or DM me, JD_the_great at Instagram. Let me know if you want that. But we're going to try to bridge this gap to the best of our ability. That said, album is streaming. All right. I am very excited about that. Let me go ahead and get the title for my album, wherever I put it. It's in my photos. That's not you. Don't you just hate it when it doesn't give me what you're looking for? It's giving me screenshots. Why is it giving me my screenshots? All right, we'll do the nicer hard way. I guess I should have been prepared for pulling it up before I actually start going and saying what it is. Where are you? Where did I put you? There you go. All right, so it is called the trading journal. Why technology is being a jerk? There we go. The Trading Journal, Volume 1, Kalani Ward. Go ahead and stream it. Check it out. Have some fun. I know mindset is probably one of the most difficult parts of trading. Actually, I'm fighting with my own personal mindset. The way this NQ is over here trying to push up and being a jerk because this thing is supposed to dump something vicious, but we look like we're just doing a wedge and it's going to consolidate. But if it did break out the bottom, I probably could get myself some really strong print to the downside. I'll be nervous at that 775. I'm not gonna lie to you. I probably have to abandon my idea, but yeah, I'm looking for this thing to get down to at least 25,532. That would be great, as they try to liquidate some of these bulls. But yeah, check out the stream. I appreciate y'all. And if you want more of this, by all means, reach out. Let me know. And I'm going to let y'all enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great and wonderful Friday and holiday weekend. Bye-bye.